It used to be the kind of show that made you cry in a good way. You'd sit on your couch, tissues ready.
I know it's difficult on the kids, and I don't want to put so much burden on them. My biggest fear is that my kids will not be taken care of. Every day they worry that I'm not going to be here for them.
As Ty Pennington and his crew transformed the lives of families struggling with unimaginable hardships.
Now, you guys, this is a family that is literally better off dead.
Wow.
But they're going to be thankful that this TV show came into their lives.
That's right.
1, 2, 3, poverty!
Extreme Makeover. Home Edition wasn't just a home renovation show. It was a lifeline, a symbol of hope.
Mom, you are the best mom anyone could ever have. This will be a great one for me, man. I'll start now and not end it for another week.
But now, the magic is gone. The sparkle has dulled. And what was once a cultural phenomenon has slowly turned into something a lot more controversial.
All these people came here to give back to you guys. And what's behind that bus is exactly what they've given you.
And in some cases, downright heartbreaking.
And give some kids a stable environment, a place that they'll feel.
Imagine getting the keys to a dream home, only to realize later that it's a financial trap. Imagine pouring your soul into sharing your personal tragedy, only to feel exploited for ratings. That's the twisted turn this show has taken, and viewers are starting to wake up to it. The fall from grace didn't happen overnight. It crept in slowly, behind glossy reveals, upbeat music, and the illusion of endless generosity. But beneath all the glitz were signs that something wasn't right.
I will never, ever, ever till the day I die, ever forget that feeling.
Families left in worse situations than they started. Homes too expensive to maintain. And producers allegedly more focused on creating viral moments than actually helping people long-term. In this video, we're digging deep into why Extreme Makeover Home Edition just doesn't hit the same anymore. From financial nightmares and ethical red flags to a reboot that feels more like corporate branding than heartfelt transformation. We're unpacking all of it. And trust us, some of what you're about to hear is going to seriously change the way you see this show. So buckle up, because the truth behind the smiles and slow-motion reveals is more messed up than you think. And the next part of this story? Let's just say it only gets worse from here. Before the cracks started to show, Extreme Makeover Home Edition was pure television gold. Airing in the early 2000s, it hit at just the right time. America was hungry for feel-good stories, and this show delivered them in oversized packages wrapped in emotional bows. The concept was simple. Find a deserving family, bulldoze their struggling home, and replace it with a stunning custom-built dream house, all in just 7 days. It felt like a miracle. And for a while it was. At the heart of the show's success was its emotional storytelling. These weren't just home renovations, they were redemption arcs. Families battling cancer, recovering from natural disasters, or giving everything to care for others were suddenly given something back. You saw the tears, the gratitude, and that unforgettable moment when the bus moved and everything changed. The phrase, "move that bus," became a rallying cry for viewers who wanted to believe that kindness could still win. What really set the show apart was its use of community. It wasn't just a TV crew dropping in and fixing things. Local businesses, volunteers, and neighbors often pitched in to help, creating this feeling that the whole town was lifting up one family. It was a powerful message that when we come together, we can make miracles happen, and people loved it. Ratings soared, awards were won, and Ty Pennington became a household name. Every episode was structured like a mini-movie. There was the heart-wrenching setup, the heroic construction montage, and the big reveal with screams, hugs, and tears. And for a long time, that formula worked. It felt authentic, it felt earned, it felt like TV was actually doing something good. But here's the thing. It was a production, a highly edited, tightly scripted, advertiser-backed spectacle. And as the seasons went on, the show started to drift further away from its original mission. Bigger homes, more extreme stories, and more corporate tie-ins slowly started to overshadow the heart of it all. Still, in those early days, Extreme Makeover represented something special. It showed us what TV could be when it focused on empathy over entertainment. Unfortunately, that spark didn't last forever. And what started as dream-making would soon turn into something much darker. Here's where the story takes a sharp, uncomfortable turn. For many families, getting picked for Extreme Makeover, Home Edition felt like winning the lottery. But what no one told them was that it came with a hidden price tag, one they often couldn't afford. The dream homes, as beautiful and custom as they were, brought on financial pressures that many simply weren't prepared for. Let's talk about the basics. Bigger homes mean bigger bills. Larger spaces require more heating, cooling, and maintenance. In several well-documented cases, utility costs skyrocketed. The Akvath family, for example, reported monthly electric bills reaching $2,200 after their makeover. That kind of expense would be difficult for anyone, let alone a family that was already struggling. Then there's property taxes. When a home suddenly jumps in value, so do the taxes. Families who had been living on tight budgets found themselves buried under new expenses they didn't ask for and couldn't manage. Many were given homes worth hundreds of thousands of dollars more than their originals, but without any kind of financial support to maintain them. The show built the house, then left. Some tried to sell their new homes to stay afloat, but that brought a whole different set of problems. Imagine trying to sell a hyper-customized home with themed rooms built around your child's personal story. It doesn't exactly have universal market appeal. And in the worst cases, families lost everything. There are multiple reports of foreclosures just a few years after the show aired, including families like the Harper family in Georgia, who couldn't keep up with the mortgage payments after interest rates increased. And it wasn't just about bills. Some families received homes so large and extravagant that they didn't feel like they belonged in them. The emotional toll of living in a space that felt more like a showroom than a home added to the pressure. Others said that after the cameras left, so did the support. What looked like community spirit on TV often faded fast in real life. To make matters worse, some families were reportedly encouraged, or even required, to refinance their mortgages during or after the show. That meant taking on new debt just to qualify or continue owning the newly renovated house. The result? They were left worse off than before, but with a beautiful home they couldn't afford to keep. This is where the show's good intentions collided hard with reality.
People think we are rich. We've had people steal from us. People believe we have hidden money somewhere. Of course I wanted to keep the house. I wanted to try every effort to do that.
You can't just fix people's lives with granite countertops and crown molding. Real help means sustainability, and that was sorely missing. The producers focused on the transformation moment, the reveal, but not what came after. And when the lights went down and the crew moved on to the next project, families were left to deal with the fallout. These weren't just isolated incidents either. Over the years, more and more participants came forward with similar stories of homes they couldn't afford, stress they didn't expect, and lives that were ultimately made harder, not better. That's the part Extreme Makeover didn't show you. But we're just getting started. Because if you thought the financial part was bad, wait until you hear what was happening behind the scenes. If the financial horror stories didn't already have you side-eyeing this show, then brace yourself. Because what happened behind the scenes is where Extreme Makeover, Home Edition really starts to feel rotten. Let's start with how families were chosen. On the surface, it looked like the producers were just trying to find the most deserving candidates. But leaked emails and former staff interviews revealed something much colder. Casting decisions were often based on how emotionally gripping a story would be on camera, not necessarily on the family's actual level of need. In fact, there were internal communications where producers specifically asked for families with at least one child with a rare illness or disability, or ones with dramatic backstories that would pop on TV. That's not compassion, that's exploitation, and it gets worse. Multiple reports claim that some of the families who appeared on the show were misled. They thought they were getting long-term support or financial guidance, only to discover that once filming wrapped, they were on their own. There were no aftercare teams, no check-ins, just a big, complicated house and a whole lot of responsibility. Some critics accused the show of turning tragedy into a marketing strategy, Sponsors were lined up to donate materials and services, and in return, their names were plastered all over the screen. You'd see brands highlighted like it was a shopping channel, plumbing systems from this company, kitchen counters from that one. It wasn't just about helping families, it was about product placement. Families were the backdrop. One particularly disturbing example involves a family who, after the show aired, claimed their story was heavily edited to make them appear more desperate than they actually were. They said producers encouraged them to cry on camera, to retell their trauma over and over again, just to create a more compelling narrative. Imagine being in one of the hardest periods of your life and being told to relive it for better ratings. And while the families were being emotionally wrung out, the actual community impact wasn't always positive either. Some neighbors complained about the chaos the show brought with it. Traffic jams, construction noise at all hours, and disrupted routines. Sure, the cameras made it look like a town-wide celebration, but behind those scenes, there were plenty of people annoyed, stressed, and just waiting for it all to be over. The most unsettling part? These weren't rare cases. Story after story started surfacing over the years. Families that felt used, communities that felt invaded, and viewers that, looking back, started to feel uneasy about the things they once cheered for. So yes, while the show put a shiny spin on everything with feel-good music and emotional montages, the reality was much murkier. Families weren't just given homes, they were put on display. And when the spotlight faded, many were left to deal with real-life consequences that no one prepared them for. Coming up next, the reboot. Because if you thought the original show had issues, wait until you see what they changed and what got even worse. After years off the air and mounting criticisms, Extreme Makeover Home Edition got the reboot treatment in 2020. New network, new hosts, new look. The idea was to bring the show back for a new generation, with a more modern and supposedly more responsible approach. But if fans were hoping for the emotional heart and soul of the original, they were in for a letdown. Gone was Ty Pennington and his megaphone energy. In came Jesse Tyler Ferguson, best known for Modern Family. The new tone was softer, more polished, and, according to many longtime fans, a lot less personal.
My friends, this is your design team. This is Carrie and Darren and Bregan. And you're the most important component of this whole build process.
The episode still focused on helping families, but something was missing. The rawness, the tears, the sense that something real and life-changing was happening, it just wasn't there anymore. One of the biggest shifts was in format. The reboot leaned heavily into themes like organization, minimalism, and design trends. Think less saving a family and more Pinterest board brought to life. The new version often looked like a collaboration with lifestyle influencers, less about structural overhauls and more about curated spaces with decorative baskets and matching color palettes. There were still touching stories, but they felt more like backdrops than the main event. A lot of viewers felt the show had lost its edge. It wasn't extreme anymore. It wasn't even really a makeover in the original sense. It became a feel-good design show, not a mission to dramatically improve people's lives. Critics pointed out that the new version was safe, too safe. It avoided the messy realities that came with the original show's high-stakes transformations. But in doing so, it lost the emotional impact that made people fall in love with it in the first place. And let's talk about the messaging. The reboot leaned hard into branding partnerships. Every episode felt like a commercial for smart home gadgets, trendy furniture lines, and Instagram-worthy decor. There were fewer local volunteers and more professional contractors and sponsors. It felt less like a community coming together and more like a corporate campaign. Sure, the homes looked great. No one's denying that. But viewers didn't tune into the original show just to see nice furniture. They watched because they cared about the people. The reboot forgot that. It focused on aesthetics instead of connection. And for a show built on human stories, that was a major miss. So while the reboot may have tried to sidestep the financial and ethical controversies of the original, it overcorrected. In trying not to make the same mistakes, it made new ones. It became safe, forgettable, and, most damning of all, emotionally hollow. But what was really going on behind the scenes this whole time? Because as much as the show has changed on the surface, some of the problems never actually went away. If you thought everything on Extreme Makeover, Home Edition was real, think again. For all the teary reveals and heartfelt speeches, the truth behind the scenes paints a much different picture, one that feels more like a production set than a family-saving miracle. And honestly, once you learn what was going on, it's hard to look at the show the same way again.
3, 2, 1, go!
Let's start with the obvious. Reality TV isn't really reality. Former cast, crew, and even participants have come forward over the years to reveal just how much of the show was staged. Yes, the families were real. Yes, the houses were really built. But almost everything else? Scripted, reshot, and edited to hit emotional beats on cue. Participants have claimed that the show often coached families on what to say and how to react. Sometimes they were asked to cry more, smile harder, or walk into a room again and again until the crew got the perfect shot. Some even said they were told to exaggerate certain parts of their stories to make them more TV-friendly.
The filming of this,
it was just constantly, we were up early in the morning and bed late. And it wasn't like you could relax in bed and watch TV because they had our TVs off. We weren't allowed TV, we weren't allowed newspaper.
And then there's the construction timeline. The show famously claimed to build massive custom homes in just 7 days. But in reality, corners were often cut to meet that deadline. Former contractors revealed that the speed came at a cost. Shortcuts in craftsmanship, rushed installations, and questionable finishing work. There were cases where families reported issues like poor plumbing, faulty wiring, or unfinished areas just months after the cameras left. The design team, often portrayed as hands-on miracle workers, were reportedly not always as involved as the show made it seem. According to crew members, much of the heavy lifting was done by local builders and volunteers, while the designers showed up mostly for camera segments. One former contestant even said, "The designers didn't really design anything, they just read scripts." Even the community involvement, which appeared so heartfelt on screen, was sometimes more about optics than real unity. Volunteers were sometimes brought in just to be filmed working for a few hours, then replaced with professionals once the cameras stopped rolling. What looked like small-town magic was, in many cases, just clever editing. And let's not forget the strain it put on neighborhoods. With the show's aggressive construction schedule, noise levels were intense, traffic was disrupted, and roads were blocked for days. Some neighbors weren't just annoyed, they were angry. The whole event, meant to celebrate a community, sometimes ended up dividing it. In the end, the biggest reveal wasn't a shiny new kitchen or backyard oasis. It was how far removed the show was from the real-life struggles it claimed to fix. It's one thing to build a house, it's another to build trust. And once viewers started learning how the sausage was made, that trust started to crumble fast. So, what are we left with? A show that started with heart but slowly traded honesty for hype. And if you're wondering how it all adds up, the final part of this story might just be the most important one of all. At its peak, Extreme Makeover, Home Edition was a cultural phenomenon. It gave us unforgettable moments, genuine tears, and the feeling, however fleeting, that good people could still catch a break. But now, looking back with clearer eyes, it's impossible to ignore the deeper flaws hiding beneath the glossy paint and cheerful music. The show set out to do something beautiful, change lives through generosity and compassion. But in its race to deliver jaw-dropping reveals and boost TV ratings, it often forgot the most important part. What happens after the cameras stop rolling? Homes became burdens. Families felt exploited. And what was billed as a gift sometimes turned into a long-term struggle. The reboot tried to clean up the mess, but instead, it stripped away the emotion and replaced it with design trends and product placements. The soul was gone. What remained felt safe, commercial, and empty. It didn't hurt anyone, but it didn't help them much either. What Extreme Makeover teaches us isn't just about the risks of reality TV, it's about the importance of follow-through. You can't fix someone's life with drywall and throw pillows. Real help means sticking around when the excitement fades. It means building homes people can actually live in, physically, emotionally, and financially. So, does Extreme Makeover Home Edition suck now? Yeah, not because it stopped trying, but because it stopped caring in the ways that mattered most. If you're still here, it probably means this video gave you a new perspective. And if it did, hit that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and make sure to subscribe for more deep dives like this one. We're not just watching TV, we're pulling back the curtain. And trust me, what's behind it? That's where the real story lives.